Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Paravrajacharya, Status Sistamad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Shri Shri Nitai Mayapur Chandra Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, devotees. We are reading this morning from Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Madya Leela, chapter 8, titled Talks Between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. And as I am informed, we're to begin with verse 91. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna. Thank you, gosh, very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So yes, we are reading from Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Madya Leela, chapter 8, talks between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, beginning with verse 91, which doesn't have a purport, although it's a very famous verse and very important verse, but anyway, well, we can say a few words about it, I suppose, and then move on. So this is now, it's actually quoting from Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 11, Ye yatamam prapajante tams tataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya patha sarvasha. According to Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 11, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. So let us say just a few words here. I mean, we could always have read the purport from Bhagavad Gita, but anyway, we'll say a few words and then we'll carry on. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarne Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyas kripa sindhubhya evacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, so this is Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 11. It's a very well-known verse and it's a very important verse. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. So, yes. So here, I mean, we'll just briefly say a few words and then we'll carry on. But the point is, I mean, there's a couple of points. Well, there's two main points, actually. One is this first point in regard to, as all surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. The reciprocation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in terms of, or proportionately to, how the devotee, or even, let us just say, how the person interacts with Lord Krishna. And, of course, if we just take it as the person and not specifically the devotee, then, well, so many people interact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in ways which are not very favorable, or even very unfavorable. I mean, of course, there's so many varieties of attitudes towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, the conditioned souls, just typically, they really don't have any clear idea, or a good clear idea of who is the Lord, let alone surrendering to him, or degree of surrender, or trying to do something favorable. The great majority don't know what really to make of him to start off with, let alone how to interact and how to best interact. This is just one of the great mysteries of life for the majority of people. And of course, the point is, and it's inferred from the verse itself, prapadyante. Prapadyante means surrender. Surrender. In other words, offer yourself. Surrender, of course, in the English language, typically is sort of a military type term. Of course, it can be, and it is being used here even in a not exactly military way, but in the great majority of cases, I think we'll find that the word surrender has military connotations. When the other side has got the better of you, and you cannot continue. If you try to continue opposing them, then that's going to be it for you. That will be the end. You'll be destroyed. So when, in military terms, when people reach that stage in some sort of confrontation, then they surrender. And, this is the mudra, right? Well, it is actually. Even traditionally in Vedic culture, this is the mudra for surrender. There's all sorts of mudras indicating different attitudes and intentions and like this, but this is the mudra for surrender. And I don't know how it got carried over from Vedic culture into the Wild West in America and places like that. But, having read many comics in my childhood and youth, you get a lot of this in the sort of cowboys and, with respect, so-called Indians or whoever else, was opposing each other. Yeah, surrender. Right, so the what's the word? The sort of anyway, the idea is when you do that, when you do that, then you are in the hands of those who you have surrendered to, those who have captured you. And if they tell you to do something, then you must do it. And you cannot be selective about it. If they tell you, dig a hole, you dig a hole. And if they tell you to dig a hole, but you are from a sort of administrative background, something like that, then you can't say, well, listen, it's not really my style. Could I suggest something else I could do? Or whatever, They tell you to dig a hole. If you've surrendered to them in that military type of situation, they tell you to dig the hole. You dig the hole, and you do it quickly. Yes. So it's like that. And that's the idea here. Srila Prabhupada has chosen this term, this translation, surrender, for the word prapadyante. There are other ways of putting it, and if somehow or other you have studied other Sanskrit literatures, or even just other of our literatures translated by Srila Prabhupada, you'll see that sometimes prapadyante is translated in a somewhat different way. Not like totally different, but not exactly surrender, don't shoot me, I surrender, that sort of way. Yes, but in a broad sense here, the idea is that as people, we use the term interact. You can say that's not a bad way of, translating the term in the context of the verse. As people relate with me, as people interact with me, I reward them. Well, if we're talking about devotees and they really surrender to Krishna, my Lord, I am yours. Just like in Ramayana, there's the story of Bibhishan coming across from Lanka just before the battle begins. It's not quite ready to begin because Lord Ram and his army are still on the other side of the ocean, or the piece of water separating Lanka and India, or Lanka and that island. They were on the island. I don't know if anyone remembers the name of that island. I can't remember. I've been there numerous times, but it's an island, big island, off the coast of India. You get a train, and the train goes across the ocean, would you believe? For a couple of kilometers, something like that. You're just going across the ocean on the train. I mean, there is a railway, don't worry. And then you come to the island, and that's the island. What's it called? Gosh, I forget what it's called. I think it begins with P. What is it? Pamba. Pamban. That's it. Pamban Island. And it's quite a big island. I mean, there's a whole town there, and it's just, as islands go, it's quite big. So they were still there, Ram and his army. They had not yet crossed, although they're going to be crossing very, very soon. And Vibhishan, one of the brothers, there were a number of brothers of Ravana, flew across in some sort of airship and landed there on the island in front of Lord Ram. And there's a whole situation arises in that Angada, one of the leaders of Lord Ram's monkey army, Angada is extremely suspicious, more than just suspicious. He just feels this fellow, we can't trust this fellow, just kill him. It'll solve the problem of should we trust him or not? Should we take a chance on him? And who knows, he might not be trustworthy, and it could be a serious problem for us. So as far as he was concerned, he just tells Lord Ram, just kill him. He's one of Ravana's brothers, just kill him. They're all the same. Just kill him. But then Vibhishan gets off his airplane and approaches Lord Ram and throws himself on the ground at the lotus feet of Lord Ram and says, famous words, actually, you'll find Srila Prabhupada quotes in Nectar of Devotion, and even other places you'll find it a little bit quoted, that Vibhishan approaches Lord Ram and says, "My Lord, I am yours." Hearing this, Angada said, "My Lord, don't believe him, just let me kill him." But Lord Ram said, "No. And Lord Ram said to him, to Angada, if even Ravana himself came and said the same thing and did the same thing, Lord Ram says, I would immediately accept him. This is the mercy of the Lord. So But of course there are degrees of that. Bibhishan was completely surrendering, just his whole life. Others of us, sometimes, if you don't mind me saying, we are sort of more conditional. Yes, I'll surrender to you. Which implies I'll do what you say, or I will serve you. I will serve you as long as I get enough prasadam. And if not, I'll go elsewhere. I'll go find another temple where they serve better prasadam. Or something like that. Just something along those lines. Yeah. I'll surrender to you. I'll serve you. Of course I will. As long as I don't have to work too hard. Or as long as you don't want me to do something I don't like doing. No, there are degrees. Vibhishan, his degree of surrender was very high degree. Yes, he was really totally, he'd had enough of his crazy, bizarre brother, Ravana, had it completely. And he was already a devotee, actually. And he knew what it means to surrender. And he knew what would be required of him if he came and joined Lord Ram, which would be complete surrender and just accepting Lord Ram as the Lord of your life and as your absolute authority. So he came and he did that. Yes. So Prabhupada says, Krishna says, as all surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. So accordingly, obviously, it's not that I reward them all the same, but accordingly to the degree, in the particular way. In other words, someone like Vibhishan or Arjuna, same sort of person, they surrender as Kshatriyas, as warriors. But Mother Yashoda Mother Yashoda surrenders, she surrenders as a mother. And that's a certain type of surrender. Srimati Radharani, the gopis, they surrender as young women, sort of girlfriends, so to speak, which is different from the surrender of Mother Yashoda. Although Mother Yashoda surrenders absolutely in that way, as a mother, complete surrender. As Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Mother Yashoda will give her life 10,000 times if there is one speck of dust on Krishna's forehead. Means he's not completely clean. You know what mothers are like. Hari Bol. Particularly when you're small. Some of you are mothers, so you definitely know what it's like. Yeah, mothers, sometimes mothers, when they're taking the child somewhere, then they dress a small child, they dress the child or make sure the child is dressed, and then they check the child out. And Mother Yashoda does that. Hare Krishna. Mother Yashoda does that. She checks him. Are your clothes straight? What about this? What about that? And your jewelry, is it straight? What have you got on? And what about this? What about that? And it's actually, there's very nice description in Caritamrita. Krishna and the cowherd boys are just about to leave. Actually, they've started walking from the top of the hill at Nandagram, at least like 10 meters or something. They've just started. They have actually started, but just started. And Madhya Yashoda comes running up and said, Krishna, let me have a look at you. So she straightens out this and adjusts that and looks at this and changes that. And Krishna's standing there like, Mata. And all the cowherd boys are looking at him and thinking, what a mummy's boy. Oh, how sweet. Meaning, not so sweet, actually. Yeah. So, but she's surrendered to Krishna. She'll give her life 10,000 times. If there's one speck of dust on his forehead, means he's not completely presentable. Like absolutely presentable. So you can't say she's not surrendered. She's definitely surrendered. But Srimati Radharani and the gopis, they're surrendered in different ways. The cowherd boys, they're surrendered in different ways. As cowherd boys, they will wrestle with Krishna in the dust. And what to speak of a speck of dust on his forehead? He may be covered in dust, but they're not going to say, oh gosh, we got to clean you, and just fuss over him and get him clean. And oh, your clothes are creased because we were rolling on the ground. We got to adjust the crease or something like that. For them it's just, hey, let's go, or something like that. It really is. But they're surrendered, and Krishna reciprocates accordingly, according to the type of surrender in those cases, but in terms of devotees like us. I mean, in our little ways, we are devotees. But with us, there can be the real question of degree. And sometimes if we're in a bad mood or something like that, and I witnessed it myself right here, would you believe, devotees, in the temple room of the ISKCON Cape Town temple on Sunday mornings once or twice, or I don't know, I didn't count, but I've definitely witnessed that someone comes in with the veggies to be cut up, but someone in the group of devotees feels they want to give their attention better to the class, which might not be a bad idea actually, but anyway, they feel like that. And so they're offered some very nice potatoes to be offered to Krishna with love and devotion. Oh gosh. But they have to be cut up first or whatever. And the devotee feels that, thanks, but no thanks. I want to hear the class. So, you deal with the potatoes. Yeah, so there are different degrees and ways, and it's not just a simple subject. Ultimately, of course, it's a question of the heart, the degree of surrender, affection. But even for many devotees, there's not so much real affection in the emotional sense. or even in the sense of like a willingness, or not just a willingness, but an enthusiasm to just do whatever Krishna wants. I will give my life. If that's what you want, Krishna, just tell me. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a complex subject when you really get into it, because we devotees, you probably noticed just looking at yourself, we are very complex. Of course, we generally think that we are normal. However we are, that's the way people are. So I am normal, but others, devotees, are looking at you and thinking, what a complex person. Will do this but won't do that. Has this attitude sometimes, but when I have a different attitude. Yeah. So this idea then, as all surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. It's reflecting that. It's reflecting that. And it's just, what an important part of Krishna consciousness. It's just so deep, so profound, and so relevant to every single one of us. Yeah. And sometimes, you may have found that sometimes, there you are, as far as you're concerned, you're sort of Krishna conscious enough, as usual, or something along those lines. But Krishna is interacting with you somewhat differently than usual. Krishna may be giving you a bit of a harder time than usual. And you may think, even sometimes you may think, Krishna, come on, what are you doing? I'm your devotee. You got to help me. Don't give me a hard time. But if you are a bit more advanced, at least that day, or in general, then if that sort of thing starts happening, then you'll think, what's Krishna's idea? What does Krishna want something of me? And then you got to pray. Oftentimes you got to pray to Krishna, please help me to understand what you want of me, because we are, among other things, we're not so sharp some of the time, and we're not so tuned in to Krishna some of the time. And so we can't quite understand what Krishna wants of us, if sometimes he wants something specific of us, like maybe to improve in a certain way, or even to do a certain thing and not some other thing. Yes. I remember years ago, it was actually in the 70s when I was doing book distribution every day. Sometimes we go to some place and start distributing books. Very good. But the police would come and not arrest us, but kick us out. And just, make it clear, if you don't get out of here, we are going to arrest you, actually. And then you got to go somewhere else. But where to go? Good question. And in those days, we did not have the modern wonders of WhatsApp or even just ordinary cell phones. So we couldn't, maybe we could find a call box and phone the authorities in the temple and say, hey, where should we go now? But maybe they wouldn't be available also. And so then we had no alternative. There's probably a few places where we got to choose. Few alternatives are available. Krishna, please help us to decide. So these things happen. Krishna is a very what would you say? He is enterprising, but he's a very creative person. And he wants us to become creative in our devotional service. Not creative in just some whimsical, foolish, kind of crazy way, but creative, think intelligent. How to serve, what can I do? Where can I go? What would be appropriate now? And it's all part of the process of coming closer to Krishna and connecting more with Krishna. And as Srila Prabhupada titled our process, becoming more Krishna conscious. Krishna conscious, actually more conscious of Krishna, including what he wants from us and how he wants from us and when he wants, and all these, more, these subtleties of life in Krishna consciousness. So if as people surrender, then Krishna rewards them. He uses the term reward. It is bhajami. The term is bhajami, which means Krishna saying, I do, bhajami. If he was saying that you do, it would be different. It would be bhajasi. But bhajami, I reciprocate. I bestow my favor, Krishna's saying. So for the devotees, it's like that. But, like we said, Krishna's very creative. He's a very interesting person. Krishna's anything other than one of these boring people. You sit down next to them, all they can think to say to you is, how's your health? Which of course is important. If it's not good, then maybe they can help you. But in some places, in Russia where I used to go before, if you ask someone, how are you? They will actually think that you want to know how they are. They won't think that this is just a total formality and you're just sort of effectively saying hello. They'll actually say, well, yeah, I'm like this and I'm like that. Or else they look at you and think, what's it to you? Because they don't have, it's just not part of their culture. Even in India, at least current day, it's not part of the culture to ask people how they are. Generally, people don't do that unless they actually, like it's a doctor, and you're the patient. Then they'll ask you, how are you? Because they actually really, it's important to know. But yeah, Krishna is very interesting. And we, in our attempts, our efforts to become more Krishna conscious, we have to tune in to Krishna and see how is he interacting with us, because sometimes he'll be giving us a message. Yeah, that I would like you to do something else or do something in a different way. Like this, really. This really happens. And particularly when you're doing something like book distribution, something like that, and you go to some place, but it's just maybe the police give you a hard time, or maybe, like we used to, when we were in Northern Ireland, we would go around and the book distribution was very good until a bomb went off, in the same town. Normally we're in the center of the town, and a bomb goes off, a couple of 100 meters away, and everybody except the diehards, which includes the Hare Krishna devotees, everybody leaves the street because, they just don't want to be around. Yeah. So then you got to think, okay, where are we going to go to distribute books? You got to. And you have to think. Among other things, Krishna wants us not just to serve him, but he wants us to think how to serve him and what will actually be pleasing or most pleasing, like this. Krishna wants that of us. He doesn't want us just to be lifetime, like mechanical devotees who just press button A and we do this. But he wants us to actually think how to serve him, in the most constructive ways possible. But for the non-devotees, because, this can obviously be applied to the non-devotees who are definitely not surrendered to Krishna at all, meaning they've got no desire whatsoever. They don't even think, what could I do for Krishna? What can I do for God? What would please him? They're generally just thinking, what will please me? So it's also a degree of surrender to Krishna. It's in the negative. We might be on the 10% level or something, I don't know. But they're on the minus 50% level or something like that. And Krishna rewards them accordingly. They get their karma. Ooh, and it hurts. Gosh, does it hurt sometimes? My Lord, it hurts so much. So anyway, that's the principle involved there. And, there's a lot can be said about it, but those are some points. But then Krishna goes on, and it's it's definitely it's a different idea, really. Everyone follows my path in all respects. Now, of course, again, with the devotees, we can see the devotees are following Krishna's path. That's devotional service, of course. It's Krishna's path. Of course, like we were saying, there are degrees of following the path. Sometimes we may go off on another path, while in our minds we're thinking, I'm Krishna conscious, but we may go on the wrong path. We may do the wrong thing in the wrong way, or even the right thing in the wrong way, or the wrong thing in the right way. Sure. Or we may our mind may get deviated. One devotee told me that he wanted to receive second initiation. And he was a very nice devotee, actually. And he is. And so he had to go to the initiation committee and be interviewed and all that stuff. And then he came on what he thought was going to be the last day to get the okay. And they told him, no, we're not going to give you the recommendation. So, he was disappointed. And he asked why not. And one of the members of the committee said, because you were at that Bollywood extravaganza. Some Bollywood people had come to Durban and put on some sort of, live show. You were there on Saturday night. You were there. And he said, how did you know that? And one of the committee said, I saw you there. Which means he was there too. So anyway, but he already had second initiation. You don't normally get it taken away once you've got it, unless you really go overboard somehow. So yeah, but now what's this then? Everyone follows everyone. That's everyone. Everyone follows my path in all respects. Not just like everybody follows my path, but a lot of them, occasionally and just a little bit or something like that. But everyone follows my path in all respects. That's pretty complete, isn't it? That really is complete. So, of course, the devotees and those, we're all trying to become qualified devotees. So, we have our ups and downs, our good days and bad days and so on. But essentially, we're trying. And so we're following Krishna's path. At least in principle or basically, in a sort of fundamental or essential sense. But then you got all the non-devotees, and they're in the very great majority. They're really in the very great majority. And how are they following Krishna's path in all respects? What does it mean? Well, what it means is that even if you're not a devotee, even if you're like a staunch atheist, and you're actually anti-Krishna, and you're determined to just enjoy life to the absolute maximum that your body can manage, in other words, as a friend of mine, I've mentioned this here before, told me, this is incidentally before I came to Krishna conscious. He was very fond of drinking liquor, and he would tell me that if on Sunday morning when I wake up, I can't remember what happened on Saturday night, because he drank so much, in other words, that he just obliterated himself. He says, if that happens, I know I must have had a good time. So, follow Krishna's path. Well, he is actually, because it's all laid out. You do this material activity or that material activity, then by Krishna's arrangement, you get this reaction, that reaction, whatever it is. And of course, there's questions of degree. There's so many questions of degree with all these things for the non-devotees who are just dedicated, practically 100%, to trying to, enjoy life in one way or another, or combination of different ways. Krishna's already got it worked out. Sometimes when we, like seniors in ISKCON Cape Town, there are seniors here, and some devotee somehow goes a bit off the rails and does something they shouldn't have, whatever it might be, then the seniors have to figure out what to do with this person. We got to do something if they're off the rails, although they're still devotees at heart, but actually it's clear they're not doing well. They're in a confused state, something like that. Then the devotees have to think what to do. And they do think, and they really think what to do. And sometimes they come up with a program of activity, like a remedial program, some recovery program, and it works well. And sometimes they come up with some sort of program, and it doesn't work so well, because fortunately, we are not Krishna. But Krishna And devotees do something wrong, and we struggle to think what they should do to recover themselves. As it's difficult. We have to strain. The devotees have to strain their brains. And sometimes it doesn't even work after you've strained your brain, because we're not really tuned in enough to Krishna. But Krishna, and there are all these situations we never encountered before, with devotees doing things which are not the best, and which they need help to deal with. And so we never thought of that. But Krishna, he thought of every possibility of going off the rails. Every single possibility, to whatever degree. I'm talking about the non-devotees. I'm also talking about the devotees, actually. If we're tuned in enough to Krishna, Krishna will give the inspiration. You can help this devotee by advising them to do this and not do that. So some sort of program. And sometimes it works because the devotees got tuned into Krishna sufficiently. But the non-devotees, they are actually following Krishna's paths. There are many paths in the material world, and Krishna knows what sort of reaction is just the right reaction for every single type of nonsense activity, to whatever degree it was a nonsense activity, etc. And so Krishna's an expert like that. And we will become expert, stop being stupid at least, and gradually start becoming more capable, at least with ourselves, and then in terms of helping others, the more we tune into Krishna. But the non-devotees, it's a very sad situation. Krishna knows exactly what reaction everyone should get. For the people on the material level, then it's all done, it's all figured out by Yamaraj. By Yamaraj. Not this one, by the way, but by Lord Yamaraj, really. And Lord Yamaraj, the Bhagavatam says, he is empowered with the complete capability of the super soul in terms of understanding what reactions every single human being should get for all the wide range of materialistic things they do. But even he sometimes doesn't get it right. We're teaching Bhakti Vaibhava, and I have to study ahead to prepare for what's coming up in the next months and all that. And what's come up recently is the story of Vidura, who was Yamaraj. Yeah. And so, he's a very special devotee. He's just a very great devotee anyway. And he's got this very special service of judging everyone, at least everyone who's on the material level. And generally he does it just right. Krishna would not have done it better. But then there's the story here with Vidura, how Yamaraj, he also slipped up. He made a mistake and he got cursed. Manduka Muni. that there were some criminals, they did their criminal things, and they're escaping from the law, and somehow or other, I mean, we've had it before. Criminals, real criminals, come to our Hare Krishna temples and move in, and the devotees think, oh, yeah, right. But then later they find out he's a criminal, and he thought the temple was a place the police would never look for the criminals. Yeah, but eventually we found out. Like, I remember being in the Sunday program in Radha Radhanath Temple in Durban, and these two young guys came in kind of, obviously not typical temple attendees. They're kind of rough and not well dressed, and we had a drama, and in the drama, two devotees were policemen, and in the drama, someone says, "Oh, look, the police are here!" And these two guys suddenly ran out. That was the last we saw of them. We should have told them, hey, it's okay, guys, it's just a drama. But what have you done, actually? So yeah, they for some reason went to the ashrama of Manduka Muni. Maybe they thought the police would never look there, but they did. And they came and arrested these criminals, but they also arrested Manduka Muni and took him away. And there was a trial. They were all found guilty and sentenced to death by being pierced with spears. Sure. Yeah, not a nice way to go. I don't know if there is a nice way, but it's definitely not a nice way. Including Manduka Muni. But then, it's just going on in the court, but then the king came in, and he knew who was Manduka Muni, and he immediately understood, this is a mistake. This is ridiculous. You can't do this to this Manduka Muni. Is a great saint. So Manduka Muni was released. But then he went to Yamaraj and said, what do you think you're doing? And Yamaraj said, whoops, sorry about that. But that wasn't good enough for Manduka Muni. He cursed him. All right, you become a Sudra. And you have a lifetime as a Sudra for that. Almost killing me. Yeah, completely unreasonably. And that's Vidura. And we're reading about Vidura, at least I am. We're preparing. We're in the third canto. He's met Maitreya. So everyone follows Krishna's path, even if it's just that if you do all your rubbish material activity, meat eating, intoxication, and just whatever, everything or anything, then Krishna's already got a path for you sorted out. That you'll get this reaction and this will happen and that'll happen. And it's all sorted out. And in fine detail. Very fine detail. With variations according to the circumstances. Yeah. But still, Krishna says, everyone follows my path in all respects. In all respects. So anyway, there's some thoughts on this, and I thought we'd go on and read some more verses, but it's too late. So Hare Krishna. Any comment or question? Words of wisdom. Shamananda Prabhu. Huh. Right, aloof.
Not conscious about what's happening to other devotees.
Right.
In a positive sense and also in a negative sense. So for me, I mean, when he spoke about that, I felt like that's something I should really kind of think more about and
Right.
try to. Can you comment?
Okay, that's a really good point. That's a really important point. And as you were saying what you said, what just came to my mind? Well, for those who are online, Haribol, you didn't hear that, did you? No, they didn't. But Shamananda Prabhu made a really important point. He was speaking with Mahatma Prabhu, who was here in Cape Town some time before, and Mahatma Prabhu said that if Krishna shows you something, you must understand he wants you to do something about it. It's not just like sightseeing. Oh, okay, that's interesting. But he shows you something and he wants you to respond. Yeah, so and that struck Shamananda Krishna Prabhu deeply. And yeah, it's very important. And what I was thinking as you were talking, I was thinking of, there's a passage, it's in Antya Lila. Anyway, it's in Caitanya Charitamrita. It's, yeah. Yeah, I think it's the third chapter of Antya Lila, the glories of Haridas Thakur. Just after Ramachandra Khan sends the prostitute to try to contaminate Haridas Thakur, because he's just really envious. I mean, he is a sort of a Hindu, and normally Hindus will kind of be favorable to someone like Haridas Thakur, who's a special devotee, usually, much more often than not. But this one, he was very anti-Haridas Thakur, because Haridas Thakur was from a Muslim background, but he had become very popular amongst the Hindus. So he sent the prostitute, didn't work. The prostitute became a devotee. The opposite happened. He was there. Ramachandra Khan was waiting in the bushes, watching for something to happen. And, he had CNN and, CBS, all those people. They were all there with him, waiting for something to happen. Then they're going to jump out. They had the police, actually. They were all going to jump out and arrest Haridas, and then he was going to spread the word that Haridas is not what you think he is. So that was bad. But then what happened? And it's really quite a thing. Then it switches. It's still Ramachandra Khan is the focus, as someone who's offensive to a devotee, and you've got to watch out for these people. But now Lord Nityananda and his devotees, a whole big group of devotees, are touring Bengal, and they happen to come to the village of Ramachandra Khan, who was a very wealthy person, very affluent and influential. And it's a bit of a long story, but they, oftentimes, like for us, when we're traveling around, we arrive in some place and we speak to some Hindu people, where can we stay overnight? And they say, oh, you should go to such and such, because they are the chief Hindu family or whatever, or the ones with the very big house. So Lord Nityananda and his whole group got sent to Ramachandra Khan, because he's the rich man around. He's got the big place, and as we say in Chatsworth, he's the big Lani around here. So they went. They went. And Lord Nityananda, I think Nityananda himself inquired, can we stay here? Because there was big facility, plenty of facility. But Ramachandra Khan didn't even come out to meet him. He sent a servant out to say that Ramachandra Khan feels that our place is just not suitable for you. It's not big enough. So he suggests you go to the place of one local keeper of cows who has a big barn, and that should be big enough. This place is not suitable. So Lord Nityananda says, you're right, this place is not suitable for us. It's suitable for cow-killing meat eaters, and goes. And a couple of days later, who should come but the local Muslim bigwig, who has just found out that Ramachandra Khan has been fiddling his books, and cheating the Muslim government. So this fellow comes with his gang and kicks Ramachandra Khan out of the house. First of all, just boots him out, gone. And then for 3 days in a row, kills a cow in the temple room and cooks the flesh and eats the flesh in Ramachandra Khan's personal temple room. And then after that, what happens is the whole village becomes abandoned. Everybody leaves the village and it becomes like a ghost town. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains there that it happens sometimes in some sort of, where there's a group, there's people, each one's an individual, but they're connected, and like the devotees. We're all individuals, but we're all in this together, so we're like a team. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, sometimes for the fault of one person, all the others become affected. Yeah. So, particularly when it's like a real community. I mean, if it's just just different individuals who are just in their own spaces, I mean, even then, the same principle applies. But particularly when it's like a real community, we're all in it together. And what happens in one person's life, there are ripple effects with others. Then, this is what happens. If some person really goes off the rails, it affects everybody. And we see it happen sometimes. We see it very vividly happen sometimes. Right. And, a classic example was with Shringi, the Brahmin boy, who cursed Maharaj Parikshit just unjustly, improperly. The whole Brahmin community began falling down from that point because they were all connected. Yeah. So, like he had only been partially trained. And that was like the state of the Brahmin community. They were not giving proper training. Yeah. So he was at a point where he should have been fully trained, in which case he would have known, we definitely don't do this. If we feel something was done wrong, we can lodge a complaint or take it up. But we don't just kill someone or curse someone to die. Yeah, so it was the same thing. There was that ripple effect in the entire Brahmin community. Thing.
That's particularly true in a smaller temple.
Oh yes.
magnified.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
You know, I really took that comment to heart, you know, and I tried to be a bit more attuned in my relationship with other devotees.
Right.
It's such an important point, actually.
Yeah. We really got to be protective of other devotees, particularly seniors, like, you know, you are at least one of, if not the, but one of the seniors. There's really, you know, a responsibility on your part, and just the seniors in general. And if we're too quick to say, well, it's not my problem, it's his problem, or her problem, or something like that.
I think we all have a tendency to do that.
Yeah,
When we see something, you get division of responsibility. You know, all the devotees see it, everyone feels like 1/50 of the responsibility to do something about it. So when he told me that, it struck me like a thunderbolt, actually. It really struck me like a thunderbolt.
thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll finish here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.